Growth hormone is a hormone that, as you probably expected, is one that stimulates the growth of tissues. And the growth hormone is released by specific cells known as somatotropic cells of the anterior pituitary. And the growth hormone is released as a result of another hormone known as growth hormone releasing hormone, or GHRH, which comes down from the hypothalamus. Okay, so growth hormone releasing hormone is released by the hypothalamus. It targets the somatotropic cells of the anterior pituitary, and those release growth hormone. Now, growth hormone can be a little bit complex because it targets a variety of different tissues. It has a widespread effect across the body, but we're going to talk about some specific ones. We're going to talk about bone and cartilage as one. We are going to talk about its action on adipose tissue or fat tissue. Number 2. And then lastly, we will talk about its action on the liver. Okay, so the first one that we're going to talk about is its action on bone and cartilage. And when growth hormone binds to a receptor on bone and cartilage, it uses the MAPK pathway to stimulate cell division or mitosis. And so because of this, right, the mitotic cell divisions, right, the increased number of the cells, that is going to create growth of the tissue. So if we think about our pathway that growth hormone would sort of get to its result on bone and cartilage, right, you have the hypothalamus is going to release growth hormone releasing hormone that will target the somatotropic cells of the anterior pituitary to release growth hormone. Growth hormone released into the blood targets the bone and cartilage and binds to a receptor on cells of bone and cartilage. And then that's going to signal the MAP kinase signal transduction pathway, which will lead to transcription, translation, and eventually mitosis of the cell. So it will stimulate mitosis. In the adipose tissue, the growth hormone will bind to a receptor, and it is going to use a tyrosine kinase receptor, much like prolactin did, and it's going to be the JAK2 STAT5 pathway. So very similar to prolactin in mammary tissue, and this is going to lead to some transcription, translation. Eventually, it's going to lead to the release of free fatty acids. And those free fatty acids are basically going to lead to insulin resistance. Right? So why is this important, right? So that insulin resistance, that's going to prevent the uptake of glucose by the cells, and it's going to lead to increased blood glucose levels, right? So you're going to have free glucose floating around, and that can be used as an energy source to promote all of this growth that's happening by all of these different tissues that are within the body. Lastly, growth hormone is going to target the liver where it will bind to a receptor, and here it will also use that JAK2 STAT5 signal transduction pathway. JAK2 stat 5, and that will lead to transcription translation and essentially the release of insulin-like growth factors. And these insulin-like growth factors, they have targets throughout the entire body. And those insulin-like growth factors will stimulate growth of tissue, right? So it will cause the release of this other sort of signaling molecule that can help out with the increased growth of the tissues. So all of these different pathways, right, all essentially have the same end result for growth hormone, which is increased growth of the body tissues, right, mainly through mitosis and cell division. At the bone and cartilage, it will directly cause cell division through that MAPK pathway. Adipose tissue, it leads to insulin resistance, which can help with the energy reserves that are necessary to stimulate growth. And then at the liver, it's going to help stimulate the release of insulin-like growth factors, then will target other tissues to undergo mitosis and growth or hypertrophy. Okay, so growth hormone, right? You'll often see this abbreviated in the humans as HGH, right? Or human growth hormone, because it's often used anabolically, right, to stimulate things like muscle production. So pro athletes will often take exogenous HGH or externally produced HGH that's not produced by the body, right? And they can use that to stimulate growth inside of their tissues, right, which can lead to better athletic performance because they have sort of more of these cells, bigger cells to do certain things.